My name is Elena Cross, I'm 31 years old, and last Thursday I sat in my car outside my office in Seattle and played 43 voicemails from relatives I hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. Nobody said we were wrong. Every single message, every cracked voice, every desperate pause landed on the same two words: save us. 8 years earlier, I walked out of my father's house carrying one duffel bag, $300, and a secret I wasn't ready to face. After I disappeared, my family told our entire town that I had lost my mind. They wore concerned faces at church. They asked for prayers, but behind closed doors they were celebrating. And they would have kept celebrating if my cousin hadn't typed my name into a search bar 3 weeks ago. Before I share what happened when I finally faced them, tap that like button and subscribe if stories about finding strength after betrayal hit home for you. And drop in the comments where you're listening from tonight. I read every single one. Now let me pull you back to Christmas Eve 2018, the night the mask finally cracked, Millbrook, Pennsylvania, a place where gossip traveled faster than text messages. The cross-family holiday gathering looked like a magazine spread. My mother polished her silver until it blinded. 20 relatives squeezed around a table that groaned under food nobody really tasted. My father carved the ham with surgical precision while everyone laughed a little too loud. I was 24, working 2 jobs, morning shifts at a bakery called Sullivan's, evenings answering phones for a plumbing supply warehouse. I counted every dollar like it might be my last. My older sister Vanessa had just landed a marketing director role. Same income bracket, fancier business cards. My mother stood, champagne glass raised high. To Vanessa, she announced, voice thick with manufactured pride, our rising star. Everyone toasted, everyone grinned. I lifted my glass too, and inside I felt myself shrinking. No one turned to me. No one mentioned my name. I had become background noise in my own bloodline. But I arrived that night carrying one question I'd been rehearsing for months. I waited until the plates were cleared and the coffee was poured. "Dad," I said, steady as I could manage, "is there anything left in Grandpa Leo's college trust?" The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that precedes something breaking. My father placed his fork down very slowly. Then he looked around the room before his eyes landed on me. His voice turned syrupy and sad. "This is what your mother and I have been dealing with," he sighed. "She's been unstable for quite some time." My stomach turned to ice. My Uncle Richard reached across and patted my wrist. "Sweetheart, your parents only want what's best." I said nothing. I gathered plates and retreated to the kitchen sink because that's who I was in that house, the help. Everyone else performed. I cleaned up after the performance. Water roared from the faucet, but I could still hear fragments from the dining room. Then came my father's voice, lowered but not low enough, speaking to my Aunt Carol. "Leo's fund paid for Vanessa's car and her semester abroad," he whispered. "Elena doesn't need college, she's never leaving this town anyway." I froze, hands dripping soap, heart dripping rage. Grandpa Leo had promised me that money himself, $14,000. He'd sat me down at his workbench 3 years before he died, oil stains on his fingers, and told me, "This is your ticket out. Nobody touches it but you." Somebody touched it. I walked back into that dining room. "That trust was mine," I said, voice low. My father didn't blink. "You're being hysterical, Elena. I'm talking about money Grandpa left specifically in my name. You've always been obsessed with money." Then he added something that stopped my breath. "You sound exactly like him, bitter and ungrateful." The way he spat out Grandpa Leo's memory like something rotten, that was the moment the last thread snapped. 20 minutes later, my mother gathered everyone into the living room. I knew this choreography by heart. She positioned herself near the fireplace like an actress hitting her mark. "We've tried to keep this quiet," she whispered loudly, "but Elena hasn't been well. She's been having breakdowns." I searched my father's face. He studied the carpet. I looked at my brother Ryan. He nodded along with my mother. I turned to Vanessa. She scrolled through Instagram. 20 relatives sat frozen, and not one human being asked if I was okay. Not one person said, "Let her speak." I climbed the stairs. I packed one duffel bag, my winter parka, $300 in tip cash from Sullivan's, and a small tin box Grandpa Leo had given me. I hadn't opened it yet because opening it meant he was truly gone. I carried that bag downstairs. My mother's voice followed me. If you walk out that door, don't bother crawling back. I pulled the door closed gently because I already understood something deep in my bones. I was never returning. Snow was falling across Millbrook as I trudged toward the bus depot. I bought a Greyhound ticket to the farthest destination I could afford. Seattle, Washington. The journey took 41 hours. I barely slept. I clutched Grandpa Lee's tin box while America scrolled past my window. Endless fields, jagged mountains, finally rain. A woman beside me near Chicago shared her pretzels without a word. She noticed I'd been crying but asked nothing. Kindness from strangers lands differently, it expects nothing back. Seattle arrived grey and dripping. My first night I slept in a shelter, then a hostel that smelled like industrial cleaner. I had nobody, no contacts, no safety net, just stubbornness. Within 10 days I found a receptionist job at a small environmental consulting firm called Bridgewater Solutions. 12 employees, cramped office, leaky ceiling. I answered calls and organized chaos. It wasn't impressive, but it was mine. 3 weeks later I checked social media for the last time. My mother had posted in the family group chat, "Please pray for Alina, she's struggling mentally. We just hope she's safe wherever she is." Comments flooded in with prayer hands and pity. Ryan commented first, "She always craved attention." 62 people liked it. I deleted every social account that same hour. Nobody warns you what cutting contact actually costs. No emergency contact on forms, no birthday messages, no holiday invitations, no one to call when fever hits at 3 a.m. And the sharpest blade, knowing people back home are narrating your life while you stay silent. For years I was the family ghost story, the cautionary tale my mother shared at Bible study. But silence gave me something unexpected. One Tuesday morning I woke up in Seattle and realized something was absent. My father's voice, that endless commentary telling me I'd never amount to anything. For the first time in my entire existence it was quiet. At Bridgewater, the owner, Rachel Chen, noticed me immediately. During my second week I reorganized 6 years of client records without being asked. I needed structure because my internal world had none. Rachel stopped at my desk. "You rebuilt this entire system in 3 days, I nodded. She pulled up a chair. "Tell me what else needs fixing." While I was constructing a new life in Washington, my family kept constructing their narrative in Pennsylvania. I learned these details years later. My mother spread word that I was institutionalized. My father told neighbors they were hopping for the best. Ryan posted cryptic messages about betrayal and selfishness. Vanessa moved into my old bedroom and sold my remaining furniture online. Year 1 in Seattle was pure survival. Year 2 shifted into something else entirely. I began building. At Bridgewater Solutions, I climbed from receptionist to project coordinator within 8 months. Rachel handed me a small wetland restoration project. I delivered under budget and ahead of deadline. After that, she kept feeding me bigger challenges. I enrolled in online environmental management courses through the University of Washington. Work all day, study all night, cheap noodles, thrift store blazers, relentless grind. There was no movie montage, just showing up exhausted and doing it again tomorrow. I didn't want revenge. I just refused to ever feel powerless again. Rachel valued me because I produced results, not because she felt sorry for me. When I discovered a contract error that would have cost the firm $40,000, she promoted me on the spot. "You catch everything," she said. "I learned to watch closely," I answered. She didn't probe, she understood enough. By year 4 I had my degree, no ceremony, no proud family in folding chairs. I printed the diploma myself and tacked it above my desk. The next morning Rachel knocked. "How does operations director sound?" The company had tripled in size, and I had grown alongside it. That same year Maya Torres joined our team. Maya was sharp, hilarious, and unapologetically loud. One late night we were eating cold pizza while racing a deadline. She asked why I never mentioned relatives, so I finally told another human everything. The Christmas Eve ambush, the stolen trust, the lies, the bus. Maya listened without interrupting. Then she said something that rearranged my understanding. My parents held a funeral for me. I stared at her. Why? Because I married a woman, she said quietly. We sat in that silence together. Then I wept for the first time since leaving Millbrook. On my 29th birthday, Maya pointed at Grandpa Leo's tin box sitting on my shelf. You've carried that across the country and never opened it, she said. Tonight's the night, so I did. Inside lay Grandpa Leo's dog tags from Vietnam, a faded photograph of me at age 7, gap-toothed and beaming, and a letter folded tight. His handwriting wavered across the page. Elena, it started, if you're reading this, you got out, thank God. My hands shook violently. I wanted to leave too, he wrote. But I was too scared. Don't waste your life propping up people who tear you down. You don't owe anyone your future. I read those lines 5 times, then I reached the final sentences. The education trust was legitimate. I left instructions with my attorney, Mr. Kowalski. Ask Carol, she witnessed everything. The picture snapped into focus. Grandpa Leo never wanted me trapped, my father did. By year 7, Bridgewater Solutions had become a regional leader in environmental consulting. Rachel called me into her office. I want you as Chief Operating Officer. The girl who once slept on a shelter cot now helped steer a company with over 150 employees. I wasn't wealthy. I drove a 10-year-old Honda. I rented a modest studio apartment, but I possessed something more valuable, peace. And for someone with my history, peace was the ultimate luxury. A regional business publication interviewed me for a feature on women leading in sustainability. My photograph, my title, a sanitized summary of my journey, the article published online in late February. I never thought about Pennsylvania, I never searched for my family. I had released them completely. And for 8 years they had released me too, not one call, not one letter. Silence. Until April 2026. That was when Vanessa typed my name into Google. Not because she missed me, because her life was unraveling and she needed a lifeline. 4 months before the voicemails, I received an email from Aunt Carol. She apologized for her silence across all those years. Then she confessed the truth. Grandpa Leo's attorney had created separate trust accounts for Vanessa and me, $14,000 each. My father forged my signature and transferred my entire fund into Vanessa's account. Carol knew because she watched him sign the documents. I sat at my desk staring at those words until they blurred. The money itself was long gone and I no longer cared, but the betrayal, that was the foundation of my entire childhood. My father stole from me, then branded me unstable when I asked questions. That single revelation reframed everything. Carol added one more detail. Your mother is chairing the Millbrook Community Excellence fundraiser this spring. At the time I didn't grasp why that mattered. Soon I would. 2 months later, Rachel walked into my office grinning. A church group from Pennsylvania contacted us, she said. Small town development fundraiser. They want a keynote speaker on community revitalization. My chest tightened. Which town? Millbrook. I nearly refused. The word was already forming on my tongue. Then I remembered Grandpa Leo's letter, and the snow falling as that door clicked shut. I'll do it, I said. After Rachel left, I searched the fundraiser online. Committee Chair Diane Cross, my mother. I texted Carol, I'm the keynote speaker. Her reply arrived instantly. I know, I didn't warn her, be ready. 2 weeks before the fundraiser, Vanessa searched my name online. She had recently divorced. Her mortgage was underwater. She needed someone with excellent credit to co-sign a consolidation loan. She thought of me like a tool forgotten in a drawer, suddenly useful again. She found my LinkedIn, the business articles, conference photographs, my company leadership page. She stared at her screen in disbelief, then she called my mother. Mom, she stammered, Elena is a COO. Carol told me later that my mother went completely silent, not proud, not happy, terrified, because overnight the lie she had maintained for 8 years began crumbling. The calls started that evening. I was wrapping up a budget review when my phone started buzzing. Again, and again, and again. 43 missed calls, all Pennsylvania area codes. I sat alone in my office as darkness settled outside and listened to every voicemail. Vanessa sounded artificially sweet at first. Elena. It's Ness, call me back, I really need to talk. My father sounded shaky. Your mother and I could really use some support right now. My mother's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Family takes care of family, Elena. Ryan wanted startup capital for a restaurant concept, and Vanessa kept calling back, her voice cracking by the final message. Please save me. There they were, 2 words. Save me. Not we were wrong, not we're sorry, just save me. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling tiles. 8 years. 8 years of reconstructing myself from ashes, and their first contact was a withdrawal request. I called Maya. My family found me, I said. She paused. Which part hurts most? The part where I'm not remotely surprised. I silenced my phone completely. I answered no one. A few days later, my mother emailed my work account. She accused me of selfishness. She claimed she had protected my reputation for years. Then Vanessa sent a LinkedIn message asking me to co-sign her consolidation loan. You owe us that much, she wrote. Ryan posted publicly on his social media. Funny how some people get a fancy title and forget where they came from. Strangers piled on in agreement. I screenshot everything, not for lawsuits, for my own sanity. Evidence that I wasn't imagining it. That night Carol warned me, they know you're speaking at the fundraiser, they'll all be there. April 19th, I flew into Philadelphia and drove through miles of rolling farmland. Millbrook looked frozen in amber. The diner, the church, the hardware store, the community center on Chestnut Street. 200 people filled the fundraiser hall. I checked in at registration. My badge read, Elena Cross, COO, Bridgewater Solutions, keynote speaker. Through the doorway I spotted my family. My mother sat proudly at the center table in a lavender dress, my father beside her. Vanessa smiling too aggressively, Ryan hovering near the snack table, none of them knew yet. At 7:15, Pastor David Nguyen stepped to the microphone. Our keynote speaker tonight grew up in a town very similar to this one, he announced. Please welcome Elena Cross. The room applauded politely. Then I walked onto the stage, my mother's face drained of all color, my father nearly choked on his water. Vanessa looked like she'd seen a specter. Ryan froze mid-reach for a cookie, and then something astonishing happened. The entire room rose to their feet, a standing ovation. 200 people clapping for the daughter they'd been told was institutionalized. My mother remained seated, hands gripping the table. I stepped to the podium. Thank you, I said calmly. It's been a while. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I delivered my speech, professional, warm. I discussed community resilience and sustainable development. Then near the conclusion I shifted direction. I grew up in a town like this, I said quietly. Some of you may recognize me. The room became very still. I left 8 years ago with $300 and a duffel bag. I didn't leave because I was crazy. I left because staying was destroying me. Nobody breathed. I was told I was unstable, but the truth is the only help I needed was distance. I never glanced at my mother. I didn't need to. This work has taught me something essential, I continued. Real community sees people clearly, not through the stories others invent about them. A woman in the 4th row pressed her hand to her mouth. Whispers rippled outward. That's Diane's daughter. She said Elena was institutionalized. She's a COO. When I finished, the crowd rose again. This time the applause lasted longer. After the speech, people surrounded me. Former teachers, old neighbors, church members, some embraced me, some looked deeply ashamed. Then my mother pushed through the crowd. Her smile looked physically painful. Elena, sweetheart, she announced loudly. What an incredible surprise. She spread her arms for a hug. I remained still. You had my number for 8 years, I answered. Her smile twitched violently. You embarrassed this family tonight. I never mentioned anyone's name. Vanessa stepped forward. We need to discuss family matters. I heard your voicemails, I said. All 43, not one apology, just save me. My father finally spoke. Elena, let's not do this publicly. Dad, I said softly, you had 8 years. Ryan crossed his arms. You think you're superior to us now? No, I replied. I think I'm finished being smaller than you needed me to be. Then I walked away, no screaming, no chaos, just calm. I sat in my rental car afterward with my hands resting on the steering wheel. Inside the building, people huddled in shocked clusters. By sunrise, the entire town would know the truth. I called Maya. It's finished, I told her. How do you feel? I looked out at the parking lot lights. Like I'm 31 years old for the very first time. That night at my hotel, I sent one email to my mother, father, Vanessa, and Ryan. I stated I would not co-sign loans, I would not send funds, and if they desired a genuine relationship with me, it must begin with honesty, a real apology, not excuses, not guilt, not family takes care of family. Until then, my answer remained no. A week later, I contacted Grandpa Leo's attorney. Mr. Kowalski had retired but remembered every detail. Your grandfather didn't trust your father with those accounts, he admitted sadly. The money is unrecoverable. But I decided to do something Grandpa Leo would have treasured. I created a scholarship at the University of Washington for students escaping difficult family situations, students surviving alone. I named it the Leo Cross Resilience Scholarship. The university posted a photograph online, 7-year-old me beaming. Grandpa Leo behind me, his dog tags glinting. It wasn't about revenge, it was about rewriting the ending. A few days later, Carol called crying. I should have defended you years ago, she whispered. You're saying it now, I answered. It doesn't feel sufficient. It isn't, I admitted, but it's a beginning. Then she revealed what happened after the fundraiser. The town turned against my mother. People questioned her everywhere, at church, at the grocery store, at the post office. The narrative she had constructed for 8 years collapsed almost instantly. Pastor Nguyen asked her to resign from the fundraiser committee. My father moved into the basement, not divorced, just distance. One evening, Carol overheard him say something remarkable. You lied about our daughter, he told my mother. She proved you wrong without even saying your name. My mother blamed me for the town's backlash. My father finally answered honestly. No, you did that yourself. It was the first courageous thing I'd ever heard him say. Vanessa lost her home. Without my co-signature, the bank foreclosed. She moved back into my parents' house, into my former bedroom. The golden child now slept beneath the nail holes where my posters once hung. I didn't feel triumphant. Mostly I felt sorrow. Vanessa had spent her entire life shielded by my mother, and now she had no idea how to stand independently. Being the favorite child can become its own cage. Ryan faced consequences too. His girlfriend Becca saw the social media post calling me ungrateful. She packed her belongings and left him. That's not the kind of man I'm building a future with, she told him. Screenshots of his post circulated through town. For the first time, Ryan understood that words online carry permanent weight. 6 weeks after the fundraiser, I received a handwritten letter from my father. He apologized, not on behalf of my mother, for himself. For every single time I stayed silent, he wrote. You deserved a father who chose you. I read the letter 3 times. Then I placed it in my desk drawer. It was the first genuine apology I had ever received from anyone in my family. 3 months later, I hosted dinner in my Seattle apartment. Maya argued with my neighbor Derek about hot sauce ratios. Rachel laughed on my thrifted cooch holding a chipped wine glass. Colleagues squeezed around a table that didn't match. The plates were mismatched. The wine cost $10. The table had scratches, but everyone present wanted to be present. No pretending, no fear, no performances. That small, mismatched table felt more like home than any family feast ever had. My father's letter remained in my drawer. Ryan eventually texted a single word. Sorry, I never responded. Not because I despise him, because I require more than one word. I still don't know what happens next with my family. Maybe nothing. Maybe someday something genuine. But for the first time in my life, I'm comfortable with uncertainty. The door is not wide open, but it isn't bolted shut either. It's simply waiting for someone to arrive carrying something more than save me. Until then, I have peace. I have people who choose me. I have Sunday dinners, and that is enough. If you're listening to this story and it resonates deep in your chest, I need you to hear me clearly. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not broken because you finally said no. And you are not ungrateful for demanding respect. Sometimes the people who label you difficult are simply furious because they can no longer control you. My family spent years saying 2 words, save me, but the words I actually needed were different. I'm sorry. Those are not the same thing. You don't owe anyone your rescue when they still refuse to admit they wounded you. I used to believe family meant staying no matter what. Now I understand something truer. Real family chooses you, not because they need something, not because your name looks advantageous on paperwork, not because guilt compels them. They choose you because they love you. The bravest thing I ever did was not leaving home with $300. The bravest thing was refusing to walk back in when they finally called, because by then they still wanted help, but they still could not say sorry. My name is Elena Cross, I'm 31 years old, and the most valuable thing I own is the peace I fought to construct. Grandpa Leo once told me, the person who watches quietly usually understands the most. He was right. I spent years watching, and eventually I finally chose myself. That's my story. If you made it this far, thank you. And I want to ask you one honest question. If your family called you tomorrow after years of silence, what would they say? Save me or I'm sorry. Tell me in the comments below. And if you crave more emotional true stories like this, subscribe to Late Night Drama Stories and check the description for more. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.